I put an island, tap for 3, cast Sensational Spiderman. I end my turn. You're probably wondering how I got here. 1 minute, I'm fighting Doc Ock, and the next, I'm dodging dragons and dealing with some guy named Urza who talks in third person. Yeah, it's a whole thing. To explain how your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man ended up in a Magic the Gathering match, we need to swing back through time to the year the game was created. 1993, a simpler time. No mythic rares, no digital clients, just greasy fingers, 15-card booster packs, and a dream. For some, it started with a soda. For others, a comic. But for these MTG boomers, it was cardboard destiny. I don't mean actual boomers like Aunt May, but pioneers of the game who cracked open alpha and beta packs at your local gas station. They didn't know. They had no idea they'd opened history. Power 9. The reserved list, the DNA of a multiverse. Kinda like how I got my powers from one radioactive spider bite and didn't know my life would be changed forever. So, just like that, the boomers with their new cards were in the Wild West. There were no rules, no script, and they were just flying by the seat of their pants when it came to playing MTG. I remember this kid Tanner from high school, total rules lawyer. He Jedi mind tricked our whole D&D group into believing that when he played a mountain, that meant he couldn't be attacked because he had the high ground. Yeah. Those boomers made up rules like they were designing their own game. They just said it with confidence, and we believed them. Try pulling that stuff today and you would be laughed out at the LGS. Although, if you saw me trying to figure out web slinging for the first time, you would probably be laughing too. Yeah, learning is messy. Magic was no different. After 2 years of kitchen table confusion, where tapping was a suggestion and card text was more like a vibe, the Magic multiverse was in dire need of something it had never really seen before. Structure, rules, clarity. The Inquest magazine arrived in 1995. It wasn't just a magazine, it was a lifeline. Deck techs, strategy columns, top card lists, and most importantly, actual rules that made sense. This marked a new generation. MTG Gen X had arrived. They had something the MTG boomers never had starting out, and that was knowledge. How to build real decks, play smarter, and how to win. And you know what they say, knowledge is power. Gen X had the power now. What they didn't realize, that came with responsibility too. Some of these new players weren't just deck builders, they were supervillains. Much like the Sinister Six, scheming, calculating, brewing devastating combos meant to take the world of MTG by storm. With Preposterous Bloom combo, I'll draw my entire deck, generate infinite black mana, and drain life the entire table! This combo will spell the doom of Spider-Man! Games became more about winning at all costs, and less about having fun and making friends. Wizards of the Coast had to step in and create a ban list for cards that made deadly combos possible. Now, while Gen X was destroying their friendships at the game table, they were also changing the economy of the game. Their tournament decks, they were meta-defining, blueprints for success. And if a card saw play in the Pro Tour Top 8, its value went up. Cards were now appreciating assets, and the boomers wanted the bag. The boomers made their voices heard, and in 1996, the reserve list agreement was signed. A group of powerful and valuable cards would never be reprinted again, ensuring their value could only go up. A decision the boomers would come to regret years later. And then came a bold new era. Officially kicked off with Moradin, new card frame, and a shiny metal plane. Welcome to the age of the MTG Millennials. It was now the early 2000s. Things were booming. Not just the game, but the internet. Players were brewing decks online and sharing them. MTG Salvation, Star City Games, Magic Online, it was a digital revolution. Net decking was born. Why build your own deck when the internet already figured out the best one for you? It was like if Tony Stark built the most powerful Iron Man suit and then every Avenger decided to wear it instead of using their own powers. Sure, they all looked cool, but after a while, you couldn't tell anyone apart. At the local game store, it wasn't about what you were playing, it was about whether your version of the deck was foiled out yet. And God help you if you brought a homebrew. That was basically like showing up to fight Ultron with a slingshot. While Millennial Magic was all about net decking and optimization, some players set their sights on the real endgame, Legacy and Vintage. These formats were like old temples, full of power, history, and absolutely no room for your budget deck. Legacy and Vintage didn't just appreciate in value over time, they skyrocketed thanks to years of speculation, hoarding, and net decking. It was like getting a text from Harry Osborn asking me to hit some overpriced Midtown nightclub. Yeah, I want to go, I deserve to go, but my bank account says this isn't my scene. Eventually, the boomers noticed something strange. their legacy and vintage playgroups were shrinking. The millennials weren't participating, and other boomers or Gen X players were retiring from the game. The boomers were accusing millennials of not having the guts to play real Magic and causing the decline of eternal formats. They ignored the cost of legacy vintage cards, saying, if millennials stopped wasting money on collector products and fat packs, they could easily afford a set of Power 9. Total J. Jonah Jameson energy. Parker, these photos are garbage. Were you taking these with a potato? Maybe if you cycled to work instead of wasting money on bus fare, you could afford a real camera. Millennials, they responded exactly how I would have.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
And eventually, Legacy Vintage became history. The boomers had done this to themselves, voting for the reserve list. Now, to be fair, millennials did learn something from the boomers. Cardboard appreciates. Instead of cashing out early, millennials bought old, sealed, and also new product and didn't open it. Millennials weren't playing vintage, but they were investing in the next proverbial reserved list, accumulating both powerful cards and sealed product like a stock portfolio. As millennials continued their hoarding, a disastrous change was looming in the horizon. It was the year 2016 that marks the arrival of MTG Gen Z, where 3 set blocks ended and 2 followed by single set blocks became the norm. This meant card rotations in Standard were now faster, while Magic continued to be expensive thanks to net decking. Standard was still the most affordable format, but even that was becoming expensive. As Gen Z players saved up for their $200 Standard decks, the cards rotated out of the format too quickly, and they had to buy new cards from the next set all too soon. Playing Standard was like paying rent. It didn't care how hard you worked on your deck. It didn't care how much you spent. It just showed up right on time and took everything you built away from you. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why don't Gen Z players just sell their cards when they rotate? Here's the problem. Most Standard All-Stars don't survive outside of Standard. They rotate out, and modern players just kinda ignore them like the radioactive bulk. It's like me. I'm pretty good at handling street-level stuff in New York, but if Galactus shows up, I'm just gonna be praying for the living tribunal to step in. Millennials had good intentions. They saw Gen Z struggling with Standard's rotation treadmill and tried to help. Just save up, man. Modern doesn't rotate. It's a good investment, they said. But let's be real. They didn't buy into Legacy or Vintage either. And now, they're sitting on modern staples like it's a 401k made of misty rainforests. Millennials didn't mean to gatekeep, but between the finance culture, the format inflation, and the advice that aged like milk, Gen Z didn't stand a chance. Some Gen Zers couldn't see a way out and quit. Others simply joined the millennials on the modern bandwagon, and now Standard was declining. This spelled trouble for Wizards of the Coast. They could only print so many modern master sets and commander products to keep the bottom line up. But in the long term, this was unsustainable. The game we all love was in danger, and they had to do something fast. Wizards of the Coast did exactly what Doctor Strange would do. They opened the portals, not just to sell cards, but to summon heroes from across the multiverse, to unite under one cause, to save Magic the Gathering by bringing in a new generation of players to revive Standard. Now, I know not everyone's happy I'm here. I didn't come to ruin the game. I came to do what I've always tried to do. Help, and I get it. Really, I do. Magic used to feel like its own universe, its own culture, its own plane. And now it feels like the multiverse cracked open and let in everything from your childhood toy box. But if there's even one chance I can help keep it alive, if my being here gets someone to pick up their first deck, then I'll do my best. A Dark Knight once told me, we're not the heroes they deserve, but we are the ones they need. And that is how we got here. Multiversal chaos, format extinction, financial trauma, and somehow, I'm in a Magic game. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment about your MTG generation.